All right, let's talk about that little moon icon on our phones, the Do Not Disturb mode. Today, we're going to dive into the real psychology behind why so many of us keep our phones on silent pretty much 24/7. And what if I told you it wasn't a bad habit, but actually a kind of modern-day superpower? Okay, let's start with the feeling I bet you know all too well. That sudden, heart-stopping jolt of dread when your phone just rings, unexpectedly. So, I gotta ask you directly, does your phone basically live on Do Not Disturb? If the answer is yes, then you're definitely gonna recognize what's coming next. Okay, so a call comes in, maybe it's even from a number you know, and what happens? Bam! That instant, physical reaction, a jolt, a spike in your heart rate. Your first instinct isn't to answer, right? It's just to freeze. Instead of picking up, you just watch it. You're literally staring at the screen, counting the rings, just waiting for the noise and the vibration to finally stop. And then, silence. The screen goes dark, and you let out this huge sigh of relief. The crisis is over. And then, maybe 5 minutes later, you send that classic text, "Hey, sorry I missed your call," even though you watched the entire thing happen. Now, for doing this, people might hit you with all sorts of labels. They might say you're bad at communicating, that you're impossible to reach, or maybe they just jump to calling you antisocial, or even just plain rude. But here's the thing. What if this isn't a communication flaw at all? What if it's actually a sign of something much, much deeper? A protective instinct. In fact, what if it's your greatest superpower? To really get why, we have to look at what a smartphone actually represents to our brain. See, the device itself isn't the problem. It's all about how our mind perceives it. And this is where our mental state changes absolutely everything. For a healthy, rested mind, a phone is a great tool for connection. But for a burnt-out, stressed-out mind, that same phone becomes an unregulated portal, a gateway that allows anyone, anywhere, to demand your attention at any given second. I mean, really think about it. Every single notification, every ping, every buzz, every ring, it's an external interruption. It's literally someone else, or some app, saying, "Hey, stop what you're doing and pay attention to me, right now." So here's a better way to look at it. Putting your phone on Do Not Disturb isn't about shutting the world out. It's simply about locking your front door. It puts you in control of who gets to come in, and more importantly, when. So why does a simple notification cause so much anxiety? Well, let's get into the science of it and see what's actually happening inside our nervous system. Look, if you're an introvert or a highly sensitive person, or just chronically stressed, your nervous system is likely already operating at maximum capacity. So when a notification comes in, it's not just a message, it becomes what we can call a microscopic demand. A tiny little thing that adds to your cognitive load and drains your already low battery. And what's crazy is your brain runs this lightning-fast calculation in the background. It knows it's going to have to read the message, process the emotional tone, think up a polite response, and then maybe, just maybe, get sucked into a whole back-and-forth conversation. And after that split-second analysis, your brain comes to a very logical conclusion. Nope, we do not have the battery power for this right now. And that's it. Keeping your phone on silent becomes a defense mechanism, a way to protect you from total overstimulation. But here's where it gets tricky. This self-preservation instinct often clashes head-on with a massive force in our world, the cultural pressure to be constantly available. We live in a society where hustle culture tells us we always have to be on. It's normalized this idea that if you don't reply within minutes, you must be angry or you just don't care. It's kind of nuts. But there is a psychological cost here that we rarely talk about, because constant availability doesn't lead to better relationships. It actually breeds resentment. Forcing yourself to be available when you just don't have the capacity for it is a recipe for burnout. If you're always answering just to please other people, you will eventually start to resent them for it. Because every single time you sacrifice your own inner peace for their convenience, you are, in a small but real way, abandoning yourself. So it's time we reframe this entire conversation. This isn't about being unreachable. It's about being intentional. It's about reclaiming your peace. The next time someone complains that your phone is always on silent, just remember this. You don't need to apologize. You don't need to feel guilty. Your peace of mind is simply not up for negotiation, period. And I want you to really let this sink in. You are allowed to reply tomorrow. You are allowed to be unreachable for a while, and you are absolutely 100% allowed to just exist without feeling like you have to perform for an audience. So, what's the one thing to take away from all this? It's really simple. Silence isn't a rejection. It is not an insult. It is a boundary. And honestly, it might just be one of the most important and healthiest ones you can set.